Good afternoon and welcome to the October 7th, 2025 work session. Please note all council members are present. Just really quick, let's go over the agenda for tonight. We've got a few items. The station area plan is going to be presented. Update to the moderate income housing guidelines and the youth council bylaws amendments. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else tonight. Is there any questions about any of those?
Stationary plan. We're not addressing stations mainly at the downtown. But more to come on that.
Yeah, Brandon, do you want to just quick come up here real quick and the other ones will be addressed later, or some of them don't have to be addressed.
So we'll plan coming up.
Okay.
Sorry, and I forgot to turn my mic on. So
okay.
That's yeah.
All right. Any other questions about that? Okay. Let's, Jenny. Oh no, you're just turning. Let's turn the time over to talk a little bit about the FlashVote survey results.
So Kevin Lyons is not online at the moment. I've reached out and asked if he still plans on attending the work session. So I don't know if you want to circle back.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's just move on then to the proposed Wall Avenue corridor plan, if we can.
Thank you, Chair White. So Jacob Farnsworth with Kimley Horn is going to present the Wall Avenue corridor plan preferred concept for the downtown section of Wall Avenue. So I will turn the time over to him.
Great, thanks. Welcome.
All right, thank you for having me. Like Brendan said, I'm Jacob Farnsworth with Kimley Horn and been helping out on this project. And so just to cover some things, it's been a while since I was here and talked to you at the beginning of this project, but the vision for Wall Avenue was to better connect Union Station with 25th Street to serve as a multimodal corridor where all forms of transportation could be served, to help reduce vehicle speeds through the downtown area and to enhance that sense of safety for pedestrians and make Wall Avenue consistent with the character of the Union Station neighborhood and beyond. That is, you know, where Ogden is trying to get to. And so as part of that, you know, as we looked at Wall Avenue, we made sure to take into context the plan for the Union Station neighborhood and what is being proposed in this area and how it would impact Wall itself. So some of the concept ideas that we looked at is ensuring that everything we did was in line with, you know, station plans, the Union Station neighborhood development and other areas. So, you know, this is kind of that open space imagery, that concept that has been proposed. And then also, you know, how do we make the concept of active ground, you know, active for transportation, active pedestrians, and make it an open spot where people feel comfortable walking. And so right here, you know, is one of those Union Station neighborhood concepts. Shows a lot of open space, a lot of vegetation, really a change into the downtown area through Wall Avenue. And so the purpose of this project, as we kicked it off, was how do we enhance this vision? There's a vision for Wall Avenue and how it ties into the Union Station area. And particularly, I'm going to focus today on 22nd to 27th Street. The project looked at the entirety of Wall. And so, so how do we advance this vision through traffic analysis, determine what are the opportunities, what limitations, what is feasible and what's not, and then to provide UDOT because this is a UDOT roadway, with the foundation that they need to make changes in the future, so that their changes align with the changes that the city wants to make. And so as we did this, the Union Station goals were, making safe crossings of Wall Avenue, making it multimodal transportation, and using a variety of land uses. So as we did this, one of the key aspects of this project was to engage a wide variety of stakeholders. So that include various folks at Ogden City. We had UDOT, a lot of Region 1 staff. We had UTA there. We had Wasatch Front Regional Council, and then several consultant groups. There's myself and Kimley Horn folks. We had Design Workshop and J. Fisher Companies. So there are multiple phases. This advisory committee was there to provide input, and then taking what we found to the citizens and to get their input. And so our focus as we started this, as we looked at our analysis, as we looked at Wall Avenue, as we looked at developing concepts, which we're going to focus a lot on, is how do we calm traffic? How do we reduce vehicle speeds? And how do we consider vehicle capacity? Because Wall is a major through road. It's a major north-south corridor. So how do we calm traffic, but also keep the capacity that's needed for this area? And then analyzing that traffic and bringing this to the community for their input and to get their feedback on it. And we did this through a variety, 2 meetings where we participated in the Make Ogden. And so with this focus and with the advisory committee, we came up with several concepts. And these next few slides will show you kind of an overview of this concept and kind of what's in it, and kind of some of the pros and cons that we took to our stakeholders to consider. And so this one right here is with the big focus on pedestrians. There's always a potential you can just build an overpass, some sort of bridge structure to get them across Wall Avenue. And now this concept, other things would need to be done in coordination with this, but as we looked at this, yes, it does improve pedestrian safety, but it doesn't encompass all the things that we'd hope to capture on Wall. The 255-foot approximate lengths needed for the ramps to make ADA would block vehicle and retail access on the streets where those ramps are, as you can see here. That's, a third of a block almost. It eliminates on-street parking where those ramps are located at. It eliminates trees, humidity, and other items in those zones. And it doesn't really allow for biking infrastructure if you did it. And so this was one of those that, even though it was considered, it was not very high on the advisory committee, the stakeholders' input, and wasn't one that received a lot of consideration moving forward. There was other options that they liked better. Another one that was looked at is a bypass tunnel. So let's say we want to remove cars from Wall Avenue in this area of 25th Street, ramping them down. And so to do this, to get these ramps to not exceed the maximum grade, to get the clearance that you need, to be able to have this pedestrian plaza underneath at 25th Street, those ramps would tie in somewhere around 24th and 26th. And there could be some changes. You could do it before or after those main intersections. But high level, one of the things that, as we talked with the advisory committee, it didn't appear like there was a big appetite to underground all traffic. And so that kind of evolved into kind of a bypass tunnel where there are 2 through lanes, one in each direction that would go, as you can see by this concept, and 2 lanes that would stay at grade, so you'd still allow vehicle access at 25th Street, or at, if they drop down before 26th and 24th at those. So again, it creates a much safer pedestrian improvements. There's a lot less exposure to vehicles. But it would, as you can see, it would eliminate left turns from 24th to 26th. It eliminates a lot of vehicle access. So say you were on 25th Street, you could only make a right out and be forced to go north on Wall Avenue. There would be a lot of major utility impacts and relocations due to water tables. There's a lot of dewatering. Would be very costly, and it would be a very long-term time implementation. So this was an alternative that was, for many aspects, there's from the community and other folks, there was an appetite for this one, but one of the things that we were tasked with is what can occur in the next 10 years. And this alternative felt like, you know, even though it could be considered in the future, the time frame and the timetable, this is not one that could occur over the next 10 years to get implemented. Another one was what we call the Boulevard. And so what this does is it just creates a large open space in the downtown area that is there. And so what you do is you create this big boulevard. And as you can see here, it's allows for a lot of trees, a lot of open space. It narrows the corridor down. It has those traffic calming features because you can narrow down the lanes and create a tighter feel to the roadway, which naturally slows down vehicles. But because of the median being no breaks in the median, again, you're eliminating left turns on and off of Wall Avenue. You know, it does provide the greatest opportunity for trees and improves safety by, you know, pedestrians can cross 2 lanes and then have a safe space before they cross the other 2 lanes to cross. But it would increase travel times. People would have to find alternate routes instead of taking lefts, and it wouldn't allow for any on-street parking. So this is the first one that really implements these traffic calming features. We had kind of 3 options that we looked at. And so this one, traffic calming, included a lot of things like bulb outs. So where you extend where the on-street parking is, you extend at the intersections, you extend the curb to bulb out farther. So it really starts when they step off the cross, they're kind of right there at the travel lane and they don't have to walk through that parking area. And so this concept right here had the median. It allowed for, you know, those, as you can see in this, those pedestrian mid-block crossings. And it also allowed for us to break the median in key spots to include lefts on and off of side streets. And this one focused on creating a bike lane, as you can see here. There's a bike lane, so you remove some parking on one side to create a bike lane, not a multi-use, but a bike lane, and then still maintain the parking on the east side. This one, pros, it really did a good job of maintaining the throughput, the vehicle capacity. Because you're adding these traffic calming measures, you get improvements for all road users, slower speed, safer for the cars. You can increase the vegetation, the landscaping in this area. There is a little impact to travel time, so vehicles would have a slightly higher travel time to get north-south, and there would be less on-street parking. So another alternative that we looked at was a modified version of this median. You've got the same features, you've got the bulb outs, you've got the mid-block crossings, you've got the narrower lanes. things to help the driver feel like they need to go slower. But using the concept here is that we create a multi-use path that bicyclists can use if they needed to, but because done a great job of creating alternate north-south routes, that Wall doesn't need to be the main north-south route for bicyclists, that you can add that extra space on the east side as a multi-use path for all road users. I mean, all active transportation users. And so as you can see here, you've got a lot more space for those folks in that Union Station neighborhood. You still got the medians that improve safety and the bulb outs and these other amenities, but you can also maintain the on-street parking, which could be very critical as you're developing additional and new land uses along Wall Avenue to help those businesses. So again, you maintain you maintain that vehicle capacity, you have the pedestrian, the active transportation improvements, you lower speeds, but this is an alternative that is also quicker to implement. So it kind of falls into that, something that could be implemented within the next 10 years. But again, due to the slower speeds, medians at some locations, there are potentials to increase travel times for the vehicles. And in some areas, you're not able to get landscaping on both the east and west side just due to right-of-way constraints. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was just saying, yeah, I was at a couple of these meetings, and I think that was an interesting element that I noticed in the conversation was that there was some people there, and they were traveling from north to south, and they were a little bit, trying to think of the right word, frustrated with this idea that we were talking about, that we wanted to slow traffic down going through there, because they say they use this route all the time to get to Riverdale to do their shopping. And so then I had to try to kind of pipe up as the council member representative and say, well, actually, we'd like you to stop here in Ogden and do your shopping rather than just driving straight through as fast as you can to get to Riverdale. So anyway, that might be just something you might hear from people that you might want to be aware of, is just kind of communicating. Well, the whole point is obviously pedestrian safety and cars safety. But at the same time, we do actually want to slow down the traffic and have people feel like they could stop somewhere in Ogden and shop and do things here too. So it was an interesting tension, I thought. Somebody, there were several people that were a little bit like, why are we trying to do that? Yeah.
Yep. And it's, as we took all these concepts, we took them to the advisory committee for the UDOT, WFRC, folks that have been here from the city. We took these to the community, and we took all that input, and we wanted to come up with what we thought was the preferred concept. And so, as you all know, there's not the ability to make everyone happy. There was pros and cons to each, but we tried to weigh those and make that align with what the city is trying to do with changing land uses. And so you've really got to understand that the land uses are going to change, and if you don't change the road, then there's going to be a mismatch here, and that's going to create issues. And so as we did that,
Can I ask another question, Jacob?
Yep.
So just, I may have missed it just going through the packet, but when we say greater travel times, I was just curious what that means. I mean, was there any kind of studies to say, we're adding another 10 minutes to the commute, or 5 minutes, or 1 minute, or, I mean, how do we quantify that?
Yeah, so what we've done is we developed this preferred concept, and then we did some preliminary analysis at the beginning of what the travel times north south on Wall are from, especially this is really from 22nd to 27th is the area that we're talking about changing the character of the roadway and making it more of a urban downtown roadway that is also a street that needs to operate as a through street. And so we did that analysis. And so it does, if you're a vehicle that's starting up at 12th Street, driving down to Riverdale Road, you could increase your travel, north-south travel by a couple minutes, especially through this area. And so what we've done and the stage we're at is we've taken this preferred concept, this near term of, adding those medians, adding that multi-use path, creating these bulb outs, and ran analysis to show to UDOT and to get their input and feedback on. And that's kind of where we are at the process, is waiting. They gave us several comments, we've responded, and we're waiting for their response. But the preferred concept that we presented to the Planning Commission, that we presented to the community, is this one, and it's kind of a two-phased approach. I know there's a lot out there that would, in the long term of Wall, would like to, and you can see in this, drop 24th Street down to connect into Wall, but near term, that's not something that's going to happen in the near term. So our preferred concept really looks at these traffic calming with a multi-use path, adding medians. You can see in this concept, in between 26th and 25th, there's a mid-block crossing. So not only can you cross at the intersections with these narrower lanes, with these bulb outs.
Can I ask a question about those those mid-block crossings? That, as I've experienced them and talked to others, those that are just on demand are problematic, because if somebody wants to cross right now, they push the button and they cross right now.
Correct.
As opposed to one that is timed. So you push your, like the ones we have downtown on the corners, you push it and you wait for your turn.
Yep.
And if those things had the same kind of rules with them, that you waited for where some engineers, traffic engineers figured out, okay, this is the best time to let cross traffic happen, that would eliminate a lot of that stopping people and packing more cars into that little zone. That seems like something that maybe needs to be explored.
Yeah, with our analysis with UDOT, we've done a lot of conversation about that, and there would need to be, these mid-block crossings would be signalized, and there would be some.
That's the word, signalized? Okay, I'm going to use the right word from now on.
And that would not allow them just to keep, in your peak hours, but also there's an understanding that in these peak hours is probably your highest pedestrian traffic. So there's some trade-offs for improvement for pedestrian traffic. It does impact the vehicle traffic, but you can minimize that a bit by giving them only so many opportunities. They may have to wait a minute before they get the opportunity. Very similar to State Street in Salt Lake City downtown, not exactly the same, but if you push one of those mid-block crossings, which is by our office, you may have to sit there for 30 seconds because they try and coordinate them with the signal.
That's a good idea.
The other question I have is, this goes so against UDOT's way of thinking. Are we going to make any headway with them when we bring a proposal that is going to slow traffic at all? I mean, they hate that.
That is something we are trying to work through. It's something that UDOT understands, that this area, if being station goes in, especially their upper management of the region, they understand that that's a significant change to the roadway. And so there is some tension there because, there are competing demands for this roadway.
Well, it's just what Angela said. Some people that aren't using it for the local whatever, they're just using it to get through.
Yeah.
And
the new,
Washington is kind of one of those streets too, and they've already kind of surrendered that to the city for slow. And I'm just anticipating they're gonna really push back on Wall.
I was wondering too, in one of the presentations, I don't remember which session, they did have some really good slides that showed the times on our different streets at different hours of the day too. And I can't remember which presentation it was, but there was some analytics of like how much time, how much more time people are spending on Washington now versus that. I guess I also would just say that because there's such a huge project with the new viaduct, that would be so much faster. I mean, for myself, if I'm going to Riverdale, I mean, I never do that, but if I ever were to go to Roy or Riverdale to shop, from my house, sometimes I do take the highway because it's faster than going through town, and it's probably a little bit more sustainable or better for the environment too. But that might be a better choice once that whole 24th Street viaduct is up. That might be even faster than coming through our downtown.
Yeah.
So, and it would probably help them with not having to replace the roads. I don't know. Maybe there's a balance there. You know?
And one of the things we've been working with this, with Brandon and Barton there is to, through our analysis, to show UDOT that, as travel demands increase with these developments and different things, you're going to start to get congestion and you're going to start to see slower speeds no matter what. But with what the city's trying to do with the land use changes in this area is if you don't do something, you're going to have serious safety issues with the pedestrian traffic that's out there. And so trying to help them understand the need to get ahead of this problem instead of working to fix it when it's a true issue.
Right. Jacob, I sat through several of your presentations, including one 2 weeks ago you did at Union Station on this project. I've never heard this statement until you said it just a couple minutes ago, that this is a 10-year project. Is that what we're looking out for? Completion time is 10 years?
That's,
Or
I mean, Brandon could talk to this a little better than I can.
Okay. Yeah. So when we talk about the, I guess, 10 years, so we're looking to do something before the Olympics. And so we kind of have two phases that Jacob talked about. The 0 to 10 year, I guess, phase would be the traffic calming, landscaping, the mid-block crossings, all those things. And then because there was a lot of, I guess the community really liked the option of creating those express lanes that go under 25th and Wall Avenue. That could potentially be like a phase 2 where we would call that like our 20 to 30 year phase, or not, that would be phase 2. So that's why we've kind of broken it up into phase 1 and then phase 2.
but the objective is to have that finished pre-2034.
Correct.
Yeah, it's 9 years. So anyway.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Really just 8.5.
Do
Mhm.
you remember those slides I was talking about that have the times? I feel like maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought there was a couple slides that kind of showed, maybe it was amount of traffic or times or something on the different areas too.
There was some analysis that we looked at. One of our very early concepts was lane reduction of Wall Avenue,
Mhm.
and just saying, okay, if the same traffic on Wall and Grant and Washington and these
Yeah,
corridors
okay,
here
yeah.
had to redistribute to these other roads, the capacity is there,
Maybe that's what
but
I'm
there
thinking, yeah.
was
But I was
not
trying to
a
think, yeah.
desire in our
Mhm.
advisory committees to try and shift traffic
Mhm.
off of Lincoln onto Grant and push more onto Washington.
Mhm.
And so that's why that lane reduction concept was dropped pretty early and didn't make it into one of those concepts that we brought forward.
So I've got a couple of questions. For reasons of conflicting schedules, I wasn't able to attend all of these meetings over there. I think I made the early one as this was kicked off with the public, but not since. So excuse me if these were discussed and scrapped for various reasons. But instead of having vehicular traffic dive underground to allow pedestrians to cross to Union Station, have you thought about pedestrians going underground?
We did, and if you think of 25th Street and the ramping down and the ramping up, that could impact storefronts. It could impact your ability to develop street front on Wall. And so that's one of the areas that we were cautious about and tried to stay away from, because one of the goals of the downtown areas is kind of those slides is to make it an open, active kind of street front walking area where you can access all the communities. And so, there wasn't a desire to impact businesses by creating, the bridge. A great example to get up high enough is 250 feet. If you had to do something similar to go underground, you might lose storefronts on some of your, businesses on 25th Street.
Could be. How about if that block, the 100 block at 25th Street was made pedestrian only?
And there was conversations about that.
Okay.
And so kind of like Brandon said, that really to try and have something that can be done now, that this more near-term concept is, from a costing standpoint, it's something that is reasonable to get done within the next 10 years. Creating underpasses or
Yeah, I know utilities was a big issue too. Whether it was the express lanes going under 25th and Wall or a pedestrian underpass, there's a huge trunk line in Wall Avenue. And so we would have to realign that in order to make either of those options possible.
Okay, and then does the same idea with, if you were to do a straight on shot from 25th up and over rather than offset it in the form of a bridge over traffic, do escalators and steps instead of a big long ramp? I mean, we do that in airports where you transport people quickly up steps or up an escalator to get to some altitude to cross a street. Was that considered at all?
Briefly, those ideas, but it just, and Brandon, you can chime in, but it really doesn't, with the vision that was put before us about how Union Station wanted to be developed, how the neighborhood wanted to go, it didn't fit in with that vision.
Yeah, and I can see where if it was straight off at 25th, up and over, that would obstruct the view of
it would
Union Station and also obstruct the view of those coming out of Union Station.
And really, I mean, the only pro is that it gets people across Wall Avenue. The plus we see with the preferred concept is it influences the entire section of Wall Avenue where the Union Station neighborhood is. So it reflects the land uses that are proposed on the Union Station neighborhood, as opposed to just getting people across to Union Station. It just changes the feel of Wall Avenue on that section to a more urban setting, as opposed to, pedestrian overpass that just goes over cars that are traveling 50 miles an hour still.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And thank you. It's a much bigger thought than just putting a bridge over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a very expensive alternative when you understand the nature of pedestrians and their not inability, but their unwillingness to walk more than maybe say 50 feet out of their way to cross a roadway. So that would be very effective at that one location, but near 26th Street or 24th Street, it would have little to no impact on those pedestrians. And so, like Brandon said, this preferred concept is more of a near term, leaving it open that there can be future. One of the things that we wanted to show is in the long term, if this was the concept that was maintained and 24th Street dropped in, you can see what that would look like if that bridge dropped down before Wall Avenue. And that would really help open up that land use for development also. And so that's what this image here shows. We did a few renderings. So this is looking, you're south of 25th Street, looking north. And so as you can see, you've got the multi-use path with these bicyclists. You've got these bulb outs. You still are able to maintain parking in 2 lanes. It's got a much different feel.
And just to clarify on this image, so you're only really seeing half of the street? Yeah, the median is that's the middle of the road right there.
And then this one is you're looking south towards 25th Street. Here's what a mid-block crossing could look like. This doesn't show signalization of this crossing, but as you can see, there's parking ends. We bulb out the roadway, so there's an additional, 8 to 10 feet of where they're protected, and they only have to go, these 22-ish, 24-ish feet across before there's more protection. And so that's kind of a mid-block crossing.
What has to happen to make 24th, the viaduct hit ground before it gets to wall? What
A lot.
is it? Lots of train tracks that got to go west. What is it?
There's a lot of issues with funding. It's I believe what I recall is correct, that is the longest bridge in the state. And that is a very expensive redo. And so UDOT it may have changed recently, but that's always been in the 30+ year plan to redo the bridge where no funding is allocated to it. So that's a big issue. Another big issue is working with the railroad. Due to safety concerns, they typically aren't in the business of creating at-grade crossings. They're in the business of eliminating at-grade crossings as much as possible. So there's been a big push to not creating any more at-grade crossings for safety issues. And so that is a big barrier.
That's kind of why I asked the question. I mean, is it even practical to even be talking about it? Kind of in my experience with, entities like the railroad and the state of Utah, UDOT, that they're pretty averse to doing stuff that's not what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, for this project and for the goals of what can be done now, we understand that is a want of the cities, but our analysis focuses on that not occurring at the moment, even though the vision of that area is different there.
Yeah, so in the plan, we want to include both of those phases. So one shows 24th Street going over wall, and then the long-term plan shows an intersection at 24th Street. So that it's clear that we would like that to happen. And this option allows that to happen, but that option doesn't restrict us from doing that and dropping it to Wall Avenue.
So I have a couple of questions. The bicycle, the active transportation corridor piece of that, is that in our bike master plan by any chance?
Yes, it is.
That's great. We don't have to change that. And then Region 1 seems to be working a little bit better with cities up here. The 11-foot lanes might be a little bit slow for them, or not quite wide enough for them. Did you look at any other options other than the 11-foot lanes?
I mean, 11-foot is just, it's done in areas. The 11-foot lane is it would require a deviation from their typical standards. But part of that, why we're looking at that, 1 foot for each lane, is it just reduces the exposure to the pedestrians. And so that's one of those details that would be ideal, because what that does is it really makes the road feel narrower, and just the natural behavior of the driver is to slow down. So in our mind, that's a very critical piece of this. Also having the trees, the vegetations, these bulb outs that you can see here that make you feel like you're getting pinched down, even though you do have sufficient room even for large trucks. and semis to operate within those, it makes it feel restricted. So you will travel slower and slow down and just be a natural traffic calming. UDOT is very, or the region has seemed very adverse to just, we're not going to just lower the speeds because we want slower speeds. We've got to design the car, the roadway to make cars want to go slower. And then when they study it and can see that reduction, then they're apt to change the speeds.
And is there parking along there now?
No.
There's some on the west side
Somewhere.
on Union Station. So along the along Wall Avenue on the west edge, on south of Union Station, there is.
Closer to the laundry building.
Correct.
So why would we add parking?
Along Wall Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because of the change of use. So when we look at the Union Station neighborhood, we have a lot more buildings that are brought up to the street. And so you're providing access for those people. We know that it won't provide all the parking that's needed, but it still provides front door access to those businesses.
Mm.
And it creates a buffer for the pedestrian as well.
Or it creates an impediment for people walking between the cars. I don't know. I wonder for the 20 cars that will get to park there. I don't know that it's.
It's
I mean, I don't know.
it's part of that traffic calming measure because they've got things that are next to their travel lanes, and so it helps you slow down.
But it makes it difficult to get out of your car when they're going 45, 50 miles an hour down that street.
Yes.
So I just think it becomes a different safety issue than.
Yeah, and currently, Barton just mentioned this to me. On the east side, there's no on-street parking. And so when we do redevelop the east side of Wall Avenue, that allows those businesses to be more viable as well. Because you can drop off, pick up people, and there's more curbside management. As opposed to now, I think in my mind.
I understand. I just think that it's creating a different source of safety.
And
Or more of a safety
one
issue.
thing to keep in mind with this concept is, even though currently the wide open nature of the roadway allows vehicles to feel safe traveling at those higher speeds, 45 and 50, they're natural, you would see that average speed of the cars drop significantly. And so with this concept, the goal would be to, you would see a reduction in speeds. And so you wouldn't have the high number of cars exceeding that speed limit. You would actually be able to make an argument for, because cars are traveling, to get the speed limit lowered by 5 or 10 miles per hour.
Currently the speed limit is posted at 40 and people go 50. So our proposal would be to lower the speeds so that it would feel safer to park on the side of the road as opposed to.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if you've ever tried to get out after parking on Washington Street, or Washington Avenue Boulevard, it's hard to get out of your car. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to go back to the active transportation part of things. In the preferred concept, we pull the bike lane off the street and we put it on the west side along with pedestrian foot traffic, correct?
Yes.
Do we foresee any point in time when a shared pathway like that is going to become dangerous and then bicycles are going to be asked to find a different route? Or how wide is that? Will it be divided for bicycles and pedestrian foot traffic, or how will that be managed?
There's several different ways you can do that. You can stripe it for bicyclists, use one side. It's that concept of that open space. It really requires the pedestrians and the bicyclists to be courteous and pay attention to one another. It's not intended to be a high-speed throughput. And those folks would be, on your streets that you've developed, on Grant, which is your main north-south, and improving the east-west connectors. So you would prefer those high-speed or those commuter bicyclists to use Grant and then come over where they're trying to get to on a westbound route.
Okay. And I see in your rendering here, we've got a stripe kind of separating
Correct.
wheeled transportation from foot traffic. So
Do you remember when we were in Germany, in Munich particularly, they changed the, bikes and pedestrians shared the same width, but they changed the surface of the path. The bikes had a smoother surface. I mean, they used cobbles everywhere down there, but they didn't use them on the bike lanes. And that's how they made the distinction between the bike part of it and the pedestrian part of it, is they just changed the way the surface was. And while if you were a pedestrian, you could walk over on the bike lane, you'd better yield to the bike.
Yeah.
Because they weren't sensitive about, they didn't want you on their part if they were going by. And I think the same was true going the other way too. They could go out on the pedestrian part as long as there wasn't pedestrians there. So I think if you just change the way you do those kind of things, I mean, it works there.
Yeah.
And it could work here.
Yep.
So.
All right, any other questions?
No, this is just good work. I like the progress that's been made, and I like the preferred concept. I think you make good points around why it's the preferred concept when compared to the others. Thanks.
So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're working with UDOT to make sure they agree with the analysis that we've done before we finalize the report and work on getting a corridor agreement in place with UDOT as a final step in the process.
That's probably where my question is how do we get how do we get UDOT on board with a thing like this?
Well, yeah, we've tried to involve UDOT throughout the entire process. So they actually helped fund this this corridor analysis, or not corridor analysis, corridor plan. Ryan Halverson, he's the Region 1 planning manager. He's been involved throughout the whole process. We've met with UDOT leadership 2 times and provided or received their comments. And so now we're currently waiting on their, I guess, second set of comments. But we're trying to resolve all the concerns that they have. And yeah, we're hoping to do a corridor agreement so that what we show in the plan is what will be supported by UDOT. That's our ultimate goal. We don't want to adopt this plan and not have a corridor agreement in place, because it really doesn't do much. So I think if the city is behind this, I think that will go a long way. We feel like, some of the leadership at UDOT understands the need for this section of Wall Avenue to change to, like Jake said, to match the surrounding land uses. You have issues when, like Jake said, there's a mismatch of, a pedestrian atmosphere next to a high-speed highway. And so we feel like UDOT sees the vision. They understand that this will generate more pedestrian traffic.
Some of UDOT sees the vision.
That's
and I don't want, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no,
I'm kind of pessimistic when you're dealing with that entity particularly. I can't tell you how many weeks of my life I have spent talking about things that just will never happen. And there's, in the words of the great Jack Sparrow, there's what you can do and what you can't do. Let's not talk about what we can't do, because it's futile. And so I don't want to be Debbie Downer on this deal, but man, it's just hard to get those guys to move. And I can see why in some cases. And this case particularly, where they've already pretty well let us have Washington. And they do want to, their whole method is, let's get people from A to B as quick as we can.
Mhm.
It's hard for them to leave that. It's just hard for them to get.
Yeah, I mean, what we've tried to do is provide them with the numbers that they need to make those decisions, as opposed to just saying, you know, this is a concept that we think will be great for Ogden, for the surrounding land uses. Like, we're trying to get them the data that they need to stand behind it. So that's what we're hoping for.
I will shut up now. I'm sorry.
No,
I
all right.
you're good.
rattled off too
Yeah.
much.
All right, we need to move along, just as an FYI.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Welcome.
We have, there's going to be a briefing at the EOC regarding the Ben Lomond shooting today, or Ben Lomond incident today. So I think if I'm asking you, would you like to break and listen to that? We can try to figure out how to pull that up, or okay.
We can make that work. I would like that.
All right. So that's at 5. So we have quite a few things on the agenda. So if we can just start with Kevin Lyons, just because he's online, and then afterwards finish up with questions with, sorry, pardon, finish up with whatever we need to do and just move through the list, if that's okay. We'll try to move through them quickly, but I think that, Kevin, you have about 9 minutes.
No problem. Sorry, I'm outside. I'm getting a little washed out here, but let's go through real quick and then leave a few minutes for questions. How's that sound?
Do you want to come to just to be ready for questions?
Okay. Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks. Nice to see you guys again. So this is the public safety survey that we did, and I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the basics, show you a couple of things that were interesting, and then of course, take any questions you have. So this survey was designed to do a few things. First was to get a sense of the interactions that people are having with the Ogden Police Department. And on this question, have you had any interactions? No, yes, and I was treated professionally. Yes, and I was treated unprofessionally. The number you're looking at is this ratio. So the 28% to 3%. So that's really good. That's 10 to 1. That's what you'd like to see. You can also, if you're interested, look into that with other filters such as geography, and see if there's any differences there. And really, you got a perfect score in District 2. That's all I'll point out there. Pretty similar. It looks like District 4 is a little safer, a little less interactions as well. Okay, so moving to question 2. Question was, in the past 12 months, has anyone in your household been a victim of crime? And there's two yeses. Yes, and it was reported to police. Yes, but it wasn't reported. So again, nice big number for no. And about a 2 to 1 reported to not. So these are rough, but maybe there's 50% more crimes reported than not reported compared to those that are reported, if that's something you guys want to think about. And then moving on to number 3, which of the following are your biggest concerns? So tend to think of these as groups. The number 1 is reckless driving, it appears, which is the one with the majority. Then in your next group, you have theft, burglary, and then drug, unreasonable noise, trespassing, vandalism. So, and you can see differences by that also if you want to look using any of those filters for, what are people concerned about, and how does that vary by age or by gender and so on. So again, nothing huge, actually. Sometimes you'll see big numbers for some of these. And by big numbers, I mean, well over 50%. And then the last one was really more of an open-ended, and you're sifting through this for ideas. Is there anything you think the police department could do that would have a noticeable impact? And you had a nice chunk of people, 41% of people volunteered some idea. And not all of them will be helpful, but you can sift through, and hopefully there's a few things in there that maybe will catch your attention and seem useful. And of course, the catch-all at the end, any other comments, questions, same idea. You can sift through that. Okay, I'll pause there for questions before I show you one other thing. Any questions so far?
Any questions?
Yeah. And no's fine too.
No, I think we're good. Go on.
All right, good. So I'd still have my screen, right? I pulled
Yep.
up the district one. So that's a fun one to look at. I'm sure you guys have some individual interests, special interests, I should say, in some of these. Again, you can just see some differences. Not living in Ogden, looks like District 4 might be a slightly safer, boring district from the perspective of policing, which is always nice. And then you'll see some differences by district as you look at some of these sub-concerns. So that can be really, really interesting, useful stuff. Not huge ones, but some that might be a trend, telling you a story. Similarly, down here, it's really you got more ideas in District 4 than crime, so that's cool. Okay. So let's see. The last one thing to show you here, besides all the filters, is we did set up some additional filters using Q1 as a filter. And this is the question where we say, have you had any interactions? So on these, this is just telling you how do people answer Q1 who answered Q1 this way? That's why it's at 100%. That'll always remind you which one you see. And then you'll see some interesting trends here. When you think about the people who were treated unprofessionally versus professionally, there do seem to be some differences on whether they're likely to be a victim of a crime, actually. So that may tell you something about maybe the neighborhood or the area or the situations that these folks are in. So that might be pretty useful. And by the way, if you want to clean up, you can always get rid of the not sure or anything else by just clicking on that tab. It's a newer feature we have. And similarly, where are your biggest concerns? You're going to expect to see a little bit of differences. You can dive into these and it'll tell you again sort of more where you have more sensitivity to perhaps the behaviors or maybe the situations cause a little more stress on the side of the police. So you can dive into this one too. And we also have a filter for the victim of the crime as well that you can see. So with that and 2 minutes remaining, other questions? I'll take any questions.
Out of 304 respondents, do you have
Yep.
a breakdown by district?
We do, yeah. So if you want to look at the district breakdown, and this is true of every filter, you can actually mouse over and see the sub-districts. So you got 101, 49, 19, and 33. So one thing that might be interesting is to do, at some point in the future, do some targeted outreach by district. You could do that. Some customers do that. But yeah, any district, any filter, you can mouse over and see what the subsample looks like. Good question.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Any other questions? Wow. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions for Captain Ziegler?
No, not for me. I'm
All
happy
right,
to.
excellent.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say they're good scores, so makes me want to move to Ogden. I'll leave it at that.
Come on.
Yep.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.
I just have one quick question and then we can break for a minute here, but based on this information, is that something you take back and how do you take that information and use that?
Yeah, I think, we tout this lowering crime rate to you guys all the time. We talk about it. We talk about how our professionalism scores are coming in from our surveys, and we have some of the highest compared to like cities in the nation. But this I can't understate when we wanted to ask because the perception is what we're always fighting. We've told you that. And so the reason I like this survey is because it asked objective questions. And if you're looking at this and you see that 94% of not only the survey respondents, but everybody in their household, were you the victim of a crime? 94%. Were either no, and then there was that 1% for not sure. I mean, I think that speaks for itself. And so we're really proud of these numbers, and we're grateful to get this feedback.
Great. I thought that's a high amount of people, so that's great.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's try to see if we can get, if you don't mind, we're going to take a little bit of a break and try to, I'm assuming Facebook Live, is that where that's at? Or
Nothing's live yet, but I'm
you're watching?
refreshing.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's 5 o'clock at Facebook Live. So yeah, it sounds like just a few minutes. So I'll be watching with you.
Yeah, you can stay if you want. We won't bite, we promise. Oh, with us? Sorry.
So how can we access FlashVote and get into the numbers like was demonstrated by Kevin?
Yeah, I can send you the link. They're on FlashVote's website.
Okay.
And I think I've sent it to you before, but I'm happy to resend it. And it really is interesting if you spend some time looking at it and mostly figuring out what it's doing and what it's showing you and how you can filter through different things. It's really useful and very interesting information.
Yeah, thank you, Jeannie.
You can also join the panel, which we would love more people to do.
Yeah.
And then when you respond to the survey, you actually get the results back.
I have responded to the survey,
Oh, and you didn't get the
but
result?
I think I got responses, or responses back, but I didn't realize I could go through
Yeah.
and drill into it
I
like
think so. I don't think that's
without a login. I can drill into all that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to log in. It's all public
Okay.
information.
Yeah,
All right, great.
but we're looking for more panelists too, if we.
Any other questions? Do you want to get your dinners while we're waiting on? I don't think we'll have time to. I know Glenn. Well, I was going to bring up Steve, so maybe that would be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe that's probably a good thing to bring up, Steve,
Okay.
for this, because it'll only take a minute.
Okay, now you can get your dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Thanks, Steve. Working in production of like very impactful tool.
All right. Wow. Well, it's gonna be a tough night for you. Let's bring up Barton now. Sorry, Barton, where'd you go? Now you can come back.
Chair White, city councilors. So this is a request. They came to us for a zone change at 1514 North Washington Boulevard. They're requesting a zone change from R2 to an R2S. So this property is, again, 1514 North Washington Boulevard. It is just north of a mobile home park. It is kind of at a Four Corners area between North Ogden, Harrisville, Weber County, and Ogden. And you might recall this came in as a request to annex it to North Ogden and do a boundary change. After council discussed that, it wasn't approved, and so the applicants now come to Ogden to develop their property and are requesting zone change, and they're able to do that. The R2S would increase the amount of development that they could do on it. The R2 allows single family and duplexes. The R2S would include also single family row houses, as long as they're subdivided to allow individual ownership of each unit. It would allow a minimum of 2,500 square foot per dwelling unit. This is just a concept of what it might look like, but we have not reviewed this. This is not the proposal, but it's just an idea that you can get a picture that the R2S could allow something like this. Single family townhomes that would be subdivided for individual ownership. You also see some of the surrounding development on this picture too. The mobile home park to the south, the applicant's part of the project that's just on the north side in North Ogden, where they're doing apartment development on that piece of property. There is an associated request for a community plan amendment. Simple reason is the community plan says that this particular property, we should rezone from R2 to R16. And so if we do this, we wouldn't be following the community plan. So they're asking to amend the community plan to have it be from R2 to R2S. The general plan has various factors for consideration. I'll go over a few of these. One is that the zoning should reflect the prevailing character of the overall area. And this is sort of an interesting area because on the south, you do have the mobile home park. On the north, you have apartments. To the west, you have townhomes. To the east, you have townhomes. So it is more of a townhome apartment sort of area than a R16 area. And another one is to avoid isolating neighborhoods. Again, this development would really tie in more to development that's happening to the northeast and west than development, like the mobile home park to the on the south. So it'd be more part of those sort of communities, and in fact, an R16 subdivision would be kind of out of place and isolated. So it does seem to meet this criterion. So the Planning Commission has viewed this, and they do recommend approval of both the zone change and the general plan, community plan amendment. They are recommending that there be a conditional overlay with a condition that the owner entered a development agreement limiting the dwelling units to owner occupants for a period of 10 years after occupancy. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Barton?
So I'm thinking back to when you first initially presented the R2S
Mhm.
zone. And that was the reason it was an S, wasn't it? Is because it required owner occupancy.
Yes.
So why the CO then?
So the R2S requires the units to be subdivided for individual ownership. It doesn't actually require that they be owner occupied. It's just they have to be subdivided. They could rent those units out. So the conditional overlay goes.
And
One above
then
that.
why the 10-year? Why was that chosen?
It's there's no specific timeline there, just to allow at least those initial units be owner occupied, but do allow at some point in the future, you know, a next generation of owner to allow them to be rented. This is something that's been evolving over the last couple of years. The state seems to be more and more open to these sorts of agreements. State has recently passed some laws that would apply a 5-year window, saying that it has to be owner occupied for 5 years. So this would be basically double that, and basically it's also with the applicant. That's something that they would agree to.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's in my mind, there's a grade change from the mobile home park to that parcel. But is there or isn't there? Am I just dreaming about it? It seemed like the mobile home park was a little higher than that parcel of land.
Oh, good question.
Is it?
Retention pond right in front of the mobile home park. And so it looks like there's an upgrade that comes towards the fence and the property line right there. But
Well,
pretty level.
the reason I ask that is that an issue with the heights of those buildings, the new buildings, the proposed buildings overlooking the mobile home park? Is that an issue?
You know, anytime you do, you'll be doing taller buildings. You know, a townhome would be a taller building, and so you would be taller than the mobile home park.
They're very close to the property line, though. That's
yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, all my photos had a lot of grading going on the property, so it was kind of hard to really give you a good answer to that.
And the R2, remind me again what that is?
The R2 allows single family homes and duplexes at basically 1 unit per 6,000 square feet.
But they don't have to be a for sale project
They don't.
or a owner occupied project.
Yeah. Yes.
Any other questions? So this is the parcel that we went around and around with a while ago regarding annexation into North Ogden, correct?
Yes.
Same developer on both sides?
It's still, yes, well, it's still Cooperstown, which Skadden was involved in. Yeah.
All right, this is on the docket for the 21st. So if there's other questions for Barton, let us know. All right, next, how about while you're up here, 1514 Washington. Oh.
I did.
Oh, you did it both.
I did
Got it.
both.
Never mind. Dear God. All right, thanks.
You're up.
How about we bring up not Justin, or we don't talking about the culinary water. Justin and Justin, it looks like.
Yes, thank you. We're here tonight to discuss with the council some proposed ordinance updates to our backflow and cross connection. Justin Royer here is our a backflow technician that also oversees cross connection for the city. So we'll turn the time over to Justin.
Thank you, Justin. All right, it's good to be here tonight. Thank you for getting this on this work session. So the backflow and cross connection control ordinance is definitely due for an update. It was 1991 was the last time it was touched. I've been in the position for 4 years almost. Joseph Swift is our other administrator that helps us out. So we'll jump into this, try not to spend too much time. I just want to start off, let you know, want to help you define our purpose, what situations we get put in to help us protect Ogden City water. So backflow is the undesirable reversal flow of water. And cross connection is either a direct or indirect connection between potable water and any undesirable source. So basically that can just be something that's happening around town because we're all connected. So the cross connection ordinance, the purpose of it is state and federal requirement. The Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974 was developed in direct response to public outreach in the 60s and 70s. It's like 46,000 something cases of dangerous water out there. So that trickled down to state. They use the Utah Division of Drinking Water. The R309 is our legislative rule that governs the Division of Drinking Water, and they impose upon every water purveyor to have a cross-connection control program. And so part of that R309 is the state asks that every purveyor has 5 elements of a cross-connection program, one of those being the local ordinance, local authority statements. And all of this is interest of protecting Ogden City's water supply and the enforcement of an effective cross-connection control program. So who should know about this ordinance? First off is backflow testers. These are individuals who are ABPA certified. That's the American Backflow Prevention Association. Every 3 years they test every assembly. Every assembly has to be tested at least once a year. Contractors should know about the ordinance. Our citizens, that's part of our public awareness program that we have, is one of those 5 elements. The city, yourselves. The plumbing supply stores around town, we do drop off pamphlets to them. And then inspectors, that could be third party or city inspectors. So we are fortunate enough to work along building services and fire to review plans for new buildings and remodels where plumbing plans may be altered. Picture on the left there is an absorption chiller room that's going up in the new Sam Williams building. And on the right is our Marshall White Community Center fire riser that we were able to approve. So we approve these plans. We add notes in red for the contractors to follow up and perform our pre-occupancy inspections alongside our city inspectors. Part of that new construction, we are looking at fire suppression systems. Picture on the left is the fire suppressor at one of the BDO buildings. This was installed as a core and shell permit where they build it and they hope for a tenant to come in. And then the building water supply is on the right. That picture is kind of convoluted. It's called a pressure reducing station. On the bottom is where the backflow preventer. You can see where the white pipe leads into the floor drain. So this example here is construction company on the left was hooked up to a fire hydrant illegally. They weren't metering it. So this got caught, hence the photo. And that could be submerged, that hose going off to the left. It could be submerged into a puddle of water. Could be hooked up to a tank that we have no idea. We don't have the control over the quality of the water to it. So we come in, we follow up the meter department. They hook up this on the right photo, this metering and backflow assembly concoction. This helps protect the water, meter the water. And every single time one of those gets set or moved, Joseph and I go out and get those tested. We also work with the Weber County Health Department. This is the chemical dispenser setup, typically above janitor's closet. On the left photo, you'll see that black hose leading directly from the faucet up into the chemical dispenser. That's a code violation that we find. And on the right side is the backflow preventer hooked up. At the top right of that photo, it's another one of those testable pipes, and that is per the code. It has its own dedicated water line, and it's installed at the correct height above the chemical dispenser. We also do is clarify proper installation around town. The ordinance does allow us to utilize the plumbing code and to enforce our own city engineering standards. So this photo here is of our engineering standard of what's called a dual source connection, where somebody uses secondary water on their property, and when they kill that line in October every year, they also want to keep watering because they might have a couple more weeks of good weather, so they'll hook up their culinary system. Obviously, that's a cross connection. So the installation of a backflow assembly is a very specific type of backflow assembly is initiated. We'll go out and we'll find them. On the left picture is our swing connection. You can see the flexible red hose that goes between the two sources, and it would normally be approved, but it's not above ground in the type of backflow preventer that it needs to be. And on the right is one of them along Skyline that we do know of and make sure it gets tested every single year. Some of them get upside down on the left there. These come with installation instructions from the manufacturer. Yeah, sometimes they're not followed, so we'll have to come in and make sure that they're properly installed, like on the right there. That plastic black body on the right, you can see the valve underneath. It's called a relief valve. That allows water to discharge if there's a backflow event. Water tries to go in the opposite direction.
They need this side's up.
So this ordinance update will help define clear definitions and verbiage in case anybody goes searching for them. And we also keep a copy of it on hand in case anybody wants to see it. It gives more references to our current plumbing code. As you know, it gets updated every 3 years and adopted by DOPL. It's got removal of verbiage referring to grandfathering, which violates plumbing code. This is something that's installed that no longer meets standard codes, and we have to make sure for safety reasons that things are updated. We do public education awareness. This will help us. This ordinance update will help us continue getting community involvement. This photo on the right there shows that was our temporary setup where we've hooked up a siphonage model. Can't see behind the little photo of the building, but there's a tiny pool we fill with red food dye, so that way the kids can visually see the water moving in the opposite direction. We simulate that there's a fire hydrant being flushed. And so this will help with our continued enforcement as well. With stronger verbiage and clearer definitions in this ordinance, we'll be able to seek less resistance when we are asking somebody to update something around town. Appreciate your time. We're open for questions.
Any questions?
I'm curious about a couple things. So does this impact residential, commercial, industrial, and municipal?
Yes, absolutely. The plumbing code for commercial and industrial is almost a mere copy of what's in the residential. Currently, we've tackled probably over 90% of the industrial commercial side, where most of the major backflow concerns could exist due to the chemicals being used and such. Residential it's a beast in its own. With two of us being working with the purveyor and being administrators for them, we get limited time to work on residential. So that's where the public outreach and awareness really comes into play.
Yeah, and getting to the residential, we're an older built out city, and I imagine there's a lot of non-compliance in our residential neighborhoods, yeah?
We find it often, yes.
So with that, how do you assess the risk of water being contaminated as a result of residential non-compliance?
So we do go out and perform hazard assessments. We don't typically go out of our way with residential, as there's over 30,000 service connections. So we rely heavily on we've got plumbing pamphlets and handouts, and anytime somebody calls in to have an inspection, we jump right on it. We're more than happy to inform the residents and give them anything that they need to get moving with it.
So if a resident was found out of compliance, there would be expenses involved in bringing their system up to code. And is there a spectrum of costs that you might expect things to fall into? Is this a $500 fix for a residential homeowner, or is this a $5,000 fix for a residential homeowner?
Depends on who you hire.
It would really depend, but I would say most residents, like if they're connecting to their irrigation system, I would say it's probably more like the $500 fix.
Is that going to be the most common, Justin's?
Yeah, I think it probably is for the residential side, what's most common.
where we're sharing culinary and secondary water in our irrigation system.
Yeah, especially along the east bench of
Yeah.
the city is where a lot of the secondary water exists, south of 12th. And then about the moment is where it kind of kicks in again. But I kind of agree about the average cost maybe being around 500. But honestly, deployment code is written so that the homeowner can do the labor themselves if they like. So that does reduce the cost of the labor. And anytime that we go and visit a site, we try to find the most economical way to help reduce the cost. And that might be a non-testable device known as a atmospheric vacuum breaker. That's just installed at every zone that they have in their yard.
Oh, okay.
That way they don't have to have somebody come out every year and test it.
And we do have protocols at our meters that also would help prevent anything from coming from a residence back through the meter into our system. But these are just all precautions to make sure that something doesn't get past something and contaminate our system.
Yep. Thank you.
I think you already answered that with that response there, but the water coloration issues and the tuberculation, right? That's the right word that we experienced earlier. In
Mineral
the year,
deposits.
right? It's not related to this issue, right?
No.
What we had experienced there. Okay.
No, the mineral deposits are basically dealing with the age of the cast iron pipes and the buildup of deposits, mineral deposits on that pipe, and also the change of velocities will fluctuate and cause that to scale off on the inside of the pipe. And then that's why we look to flush at our hydrants.
So I have a question. Now, you talked about a vacuum break, or maybe you talked about it. I don't know. One of you guys talked about it.
You said bathroom, but I'm just
The vacuum break, yeah. So that if the water does tried to get sucked the other way, it doesn't let it go because it just sucks air at that point, right?
Correct.
So that's one methodology. And then there's check valves. Are those legal?
There's certain check valves that are not ASSE certified, which is an American Sanitary Engineering. And so we have to look at the plumbing code, which it doesn't call out those to be used typically.
So so people would have to use like a vacuum break.
It would have to be
and what is at the meter?
So
you said there's something at the meter that.
Yeah, so there can be backflow devices at the meter, but also even the newer meters themselves have backflow protection in the newer meters. So that it doesn't allow say somebody's doing something and they put the end of a hose in, say, a bucket of irrigation water, right? And then you have a hydrant get opened or a fire hydrant situation where it starts pulling water and it actually the pressures fluctuate and changes. So then it would create negative pressure potentially to pull that out. So that's what these devices do, is they protect against negative pressures being able to pull water back the other way.
So where the ordinance doesn't allow for grandfathering, which sounds like a great idea. How do people make sure that, I guess you're just asking people to call in and say, hey, come check me out? Is that what you're asking?
We're asking people to help us inform them at that point. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
And also the education materials that we give to people. And if they have a question, we're more than happy to come out and to look and to help assist them in figuring out what needs to happen.
Well, just even the pictures that you used here, most people aren't going to say, I don't know what that means. That doesn't make much sense to me. So you're going to have to have somebody talking them through it. So, okay.
Justin, you mentioned anytime that there's a change where it requires an inspection for plumbing, then you automatically become involved, or whoever does the inspection becomes involved. Can they act on your behalf as far as requiring the backflow meters to be put inside a home, in a residential home?
So if there's a plumbing update and it goes through a permitting process, which it should, we can get involved and see if it's needed at a certain isolation period within their plumbing system. Typically, city inspectors, we've worked with them in the past, and we've had education time with them as well up at the treatment plant. Gave them a presentation to help look out for certain things whenever we're unable to make it.
We remodeled our home several years ago, and that was part of the requirement that we put in a backflow meter, a protector, whatever it's called. And well, I didn't think anything of it. I'd see the value of it, but our home didn't have that prior to that. Our home was built in 1941. So it was nice to I understand the value of that and the importance, but it was the inspector who initiated that.
Yeah, so when on there's upgrades or remodels and there is an inspection. And so there's plans submitted, and that's part of the plan approval process, is to make sure that they meet these things. So when inspectors come out, that's why they look to see if you followed the plan correctly. And then that's documented. Okay. Well, all right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wow. How is this possible? We've already eaten, so it's okay.
So I'm going to be pretty quick here, but this is related to the upcoming capital improvement plan that the council will look at next year. One thing that we as council staff have done over the last few years is given the council an opportunity to look at all of the all the capital improvement projects that are expected to be on that capital improvement plan next year. And if you recall, the council usually looks at this plan around the time of the budget, April, May timeframe. And so because administration is starting to prepare the capital improvement plan, what we've done is we've put together a survey for you to prioritize. You can rank projects. And what you're going to see, and I'm going to be sending you an email later this week and a request to fill this out. But what you'll see is all of the one-time capital improvement projects that were not fully funded. And then you'll also see the ongoing projects that you see year to year. But in this case, you'll have an opportunity to look at each project. You can click on the project briefing and kind of scroll through that. And then you can go back here and mark which of your individual priorities you think where this lines up. And it's going to be very similar to the ongoing projects. You'll pick if you want to see less funding, the same funding, or more funding. And what that does is it informs administration as they're preparing the CIP for the next year, what council's priorities are. So when we get your responses, I think we'll probably give you, 10 days, 2 weeks. It shouldn't take that long to fill this out. When we get the responses, we'll put them together in a matrix and let you know what the priorities were. You'll be able to see, how many council members wanted less funding for, each of these specific projects, or how many wanted more funding. So yeah, well, I'll be sending you that link and an email later this week, and feel free to reach out if you have questions.
And what's the time frame you want it back, Steve? Because I'm usually the one that's asking about 5 times.
So I will reiterate this in the email. I believe last year it was like 2 weeks. That way we can make sure to get it to administration in time. But I don't know that we've set a specific time frame, but I think it will likely be, end of the week in a few weeks from now. So like a Friday.
If you could specify the date, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe
And if you would
maybe
send us a
even-
text that says that you have sent it in the email.
well,
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
I will
that's
call you,
me,
yeah.
I don't- Yeah. Well, that'd be great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Any questions for Steve? Thanks. Yeah.
Eric did most of the work in putting this together. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric. All right. Any council business?
Madam Chair, I attended a presentation today by President Brad Mortensen at Weber State. And I don't know if this is any public knowledge or not. He was pretty public about what he said regarding the Skiff building down on the Union Station Plaza there. He said that Ogden City is not in the strong position anymore to do that building. I don't know if there's any further input that we could ask, or if that needs to go into a different venue, like a closed session. But President Mortensen there was a pretty good sized group of people present, and he stated a few things that I perked up my ears. So I know the administration's aware of that change, but
No, I think it seems like it's very fluid on a pretty daily basis, but haven't heard anything about it, so my suggestion would be if we are wanting to do something, we should write a letter and say we're willing to do whatever we can to help, and if we need to move a RDA meeting along, that'd be great as well. So maybe we can follow up and figure out how to do that.
is it appropriate for me to be any more open than what I have been? I've tried to be very cautious about what I share. So
I guess I would just say it's really Brad's information that I think he's the one that should be disseminating it. Since this is a public meeting and open to everybody, it might be wise to let Brad have that say.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
I do have a question, maybe Justin, while you're here. I've had been walking around the Mount Ogden neighborhood, and there's a lot of people asking what's going on at the golf course. Can you give us an update why there's so many backhoes and
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
gravel being dumped? And
Yeah, so this is what's going on. It's actually in front of the golf course on Constitution Way. There is an old corrugated metal pipe that was the storm drain that has deteriorated to the point of having some problems. And there's been an elevation difference with the storm drain inlet box. And so what's going on over there off of Constitution Way is actually some stormwater improvements. There are also some deficient sidewalk that was right there along Constitution Way, and some curb and gutter on Constitution Way that's being upgraded.
thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks. Okay. Any other?
This one, I apologize, I won't be here next week. I'm traveling for work.
While Justin's in the room, do you want to give us a little update on projected completion at 20th and Harrison and that new intersection? How's that coming? Did it wash away in a storm?
Yeah, no, it did not. Thankfully, we also had we started the first layers of asphalt going down. If you notice, the curb and gutter isn't getting in place, asphalt's getting put in place. And so our expectation, I want to say, is about October 20th is when we expect that intersection to be fully open and operational again. So there are obviously some differences from now than when it was before. If you are west of Harrison going eastbound, you'll be able to continue to go straight east on 20th Street. If you are east of Harrison, above, up above by the grocery store, and you are going west, there will definitely be some changes. As you're going eastbound, you're going to be required to actually go and connect into Valley Drive, and you'll be able to either turn right or left onto Valley Drive at that point, and then that'll bring you to the intersection of Harrison. So instead of having 20th Street and Valley Drive all converge right at the same point, right at the intersection, now the people going eastbound that are above Harrison, they're going westbound above Harrison from the east are going to be required to actually connect into Valley Drive to then go through.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
One other question, Justin. When do you anticipate ceasing your work on residential streets for the year?
We are starting to wind down, though we always continue. If there's a pothole or some other issue, we'll always come out and look to take care of that as immediate as possible. But we are winding down our overlays. We kind of started winding that down at the end of September. But we'll have maybe some more minor projects dealing with as far as overlays and asphalt.
Thank you.
Justin, maybe you could give them a little update on what's happening at Taylor Avenue and then the
Yeah, you bet.
redirection.
You bet. And so this goes, as many of you remember, going back last year, the Taylor neighborhood was frustrated at the speeds of people traveling on Taylor Avenue, particularly south of Weber State College going to Country Hills Drive. We met with the neighborhood, had a meeting up there. We went to and we listened to some of their concerns, and they ranged, their solution ranged from completely closing off the street to maybe doing something to slow traffic down. As we went and evaluated that street to try to change how the speeds were on that street, we evaluated and determined that a tabletop was basically the only option of being able to slow down traffic on that street. And so we started that project. And so we temporarily have a detour around Taylor Avenue, but we expect really by the end of the month to be pretty much completed with that project, have the new tabletop, have asphalt put back, though we are doing some other little minor improvements and some landscaping and some other things in some areas that will be going on. But that's what's going on. So that hopefully, we've got 2-3 weeks, we'll be completely finished with that project.
Just is it 1 or 2 tabletop? I just wasn't sure.
1.
Okay.
The tabletop is closer to the college.
Yeah. And thanks a lot for staying in touch with that neighborhood. They were committed to try to find a solution, and I really appreciate the support of Ogden City and
the neighborhood east of Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some concerns, I think, from the people who live on Edge Hill with the temporary detour. However, that is temporary. The sidewalks to and from are really, all the sidewalks are up on Taylor. There's not sidewalks really on Edge Hill, and that road is actually narrower than Taylor as well. So this is just really to help kind of require some slower speeds through that neighborhood.
I think one of the concerns we heard today on that rerouting, of course, moving people through Edge Hill, that might persist after the tabletop's installed, to where people say, rather than just going this way, now this is another alternate route that they can speed down. So I wonder if that's something that you guys can look at and think through, and if there's any.
Yeah, we have good data on the traffic patterns in that area, so we'll compare that data once we're through. The other thing that we have noticed is that every year there seems to be students who finish college and students who start college for the first time, and so it kind of resets how those patterns as well. So we'll continue to look at those, but the most direct route for sure is on Taylor.
So, and just one last thing from me, and it is 27th Street above Harrison, and new asphalt's been laid down for the most part all the way up to Buchanan, and then it stops. And some of the residents are wondering if the city stopped at that point because the parking that takes place to access the trailheads probably causes additional damage at the gutter, at that apron, because it gets thinned out. Okay. And now that a new parking area is going to go in above 27th as created by TFNU, will 27th be improved from Buchanan all the way up to the very top?
Yeah, we will look to do that. And I believe the main reason that connection was not done with asphalt is that I believe the county, because that trailhead is actually in Weber County, it's not in Ogden City. Right. And one of the things they're requiring with the pavilion and some of the improvements up there is to look to get a bathroom. And so if they need to get a bathroom, they're going to have to run a sewer lateral down into 27th Street there. And so we didn't want to put a new fresh coat of asphalt down and then have it cut into.
Anybody other than a neighbor or two of mine mentioned anything or brought any attention to the city around increased speeds going up 27th toward that trailhead?
You know, we get reports of increased speeds all over the city, and I would dare say that we probably have got that at that location as well. And so we'll continue to monitor speeds and yeah, with the new trailhead, I can definitely see that there's concern with the neighborhood on that. Most of the time, if they're in neighborhoods that don't have a new trailhead, most of the time it's the neighbors themselves that are speeding.
Yeah.
And so where that's the direct route to the trailhead. So we'll take a look at that as well, see what we can do and monitor and get the data and then take appropriate measures.
Is it fair to call potholes naturally occurring speed bumps?
Hey, that's good. That's what I.
Well,
Yeah.
that is a way, or
We pay
waterways.
going faster.
Waterways is another thing to naturally slow down vehicular traffic
Yeah.
as well. So we can look at those things.
Thanks, Justin.
We do want everybody safe. We want neighborhoods safe, kids safe. We want people to be able to walk around and feel very comfortable.
Yep. Great.
All right, any other questions? Business?
Just a reminder, there's a fire open house tomorrow, and then there are some Christmas Village sweatshirts that a few of you need to pick up.
Thanks.
Great.
We actually have time for a bio break. Yay.
In my world.